Welcome back, everyone, to Dark Knowledge. I am Dave Cottingham here with Coup Master Coup. Cory Cooley, how are you, my friend?
Feeling Sithy. I'm liking it. We are hours after witnessing true beauty, so I'm happy, very happy.
That is correct, because we did plan on doing this episode a couple of nights ago.
Yeah,
kind of got things popping up and everything. And I had heard this rumor that this thing is dropping this week, right?
Yeah.
So thankfully it did today. And what we're referring to, obviously, is the new trailer for the series coming out in May, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that pertain to what we're going to talk about on this episode of Dark Knowledge? Because in this episode, on this show, right, we dive into the secrets of the dark side of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And our first episode, if you haven't checked it out, was about the Grand Sith Master himself.
Yes.
Emperor Palpatine / Darth Sidious.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're getting a little bit even more broader to talk on this episode about the Sith Order in general. Right? So,
yes.
And, where we're going to go to is kind of links us to like what you just said about the trailer that comes out today, came out today. So Cory, let's start with, I want to start this by saying starting this discussion first with, I think what we all need to know, because, just like the Jedi had a code, right?
Yeah.
The Sith also have a code.
They have a code.
And here is how the Sith Code is read, or is recited. It says, "Peace is a lie. There's only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me." So what is that? What is that saying? How are you interpreting that?
Oh man. It's conquest. It's everything that the Sith believe in, which is self-serving. There are aspects of it that you can twist, and the Emperor, himself was like, "Look, when I rule, finally, we will know peace in his terms," which is like, well, one, he controlled the war anyways, but two, under the Sith, he could have, there wouldn't be a war anymore, because technically, the real war, which is with the Jedi. So I don't know. I think there's lots of different interpretations. It's a religion after all. The Sith, just like Jedi, they're both religious. So step number one of making, what a Sith is, what makes a Sith is obviously one, dark side user, or a Force user, but a dark side user. But and then selfishness, and then God, what's the third one? I'm forgetting. Anyways, so yeah, it's that, I think. And it's believing in it's the religion of that, which I think is where that oath comes from.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that if you go back now, here's the thing: is on all the stuff that I usually do, and what we're trying to do on these shows is we're trying to really lean on the canon of Star Wars, right? There's all this stuff with the non-canon aspects, as far back as the games, like the Knights of the Old Republic and all that stuff. And a lot of that I think is going to end up being true. And a lot of it you can still kind of lean on as truth, which is, there is truth in that the Sith have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And it all started, I think everybody kind of knows, with the first of the fallen Jedi. They left the Order. They go and basically find a planet, Korriban, and they establish this new religion, like you said,
right?
Which is basically what are Sith, I think is the opposite of what the Jedi believe in, right? And I think Anakin said it best in the prequels, right? You know, the Jedi are selfless, whereas the Sith think nothing of themselves, right? And you know, power, anger, pain, passion, all the stuff that code says,
right?
So obviously that's why there's this big confrontation through the years between Jedi and Sith, but also, which is interesting, I think we should talk about, is the battle that the Sith always had within themselves.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right?
The very beliefs they have incite fighting. So like, I think, I mean, and it's all from a different point. I think another thing Anakin was interesting. He said was from his point of view, the Jedi are evil. Like you got to think like, you know, the word passion. I mean, passion. You could be passionate about anything, but the fact that you feel that passion is against the Jedi code. You're not supposed to, you know, have those kind of feelings.
Yeah,
but you can be passionate and you can crave victory. I mean, it's really odd because it's like, what do the Jedi really? I mean, do they not want to win? Do they not want to beat the Sith? Isn't that not victory? You know, aren't they not passionate about life? You know, so it's it's weird. It's just like, I mean, it's if you start to think of it as a religion and trying to study it in a sense that, I mean, it could be read and construed in different ways, but it's really, obviously, by the end of the day, it's where your heart is. And obviously the Jedi clearly are, you know, their beliefs are good, because obviously being a Sith turns you into a monster, man. I mean, it deteriorates you. So obviously there's something wrong there. You know, it's like,
right.
But they look cooler anyways.
They do look cooler. Yeah. And another belief as we go on, and this is fairly new because this was only brought into from the sequel trilogy in episode 9, really, is the thought of this Force Dyad, right? Yeah. So the Sith believed in the doctrine of the Dyad, which, you know, according to the Secrets of the Dark Side of the Force, which you read, which is the book kind of written by Sidious, I mean, he wrote in there that this doctrine of the Dyad was etched into the walls of the Citadel on Exegol.
Right.
So Exegol is this hidden Sith world that's been hidden for years, and obviously no one even knew about it. Luke found out about it somehow and was trying to find it.
Right.
But this Dyad, you know, and the Sith tried to, themselves tried to create this Dyad, which they weren't successful with it until the Dyad actually came to be, which was Rey and
it was a freak thing. From what I could tell, like this, it was always the carrot at the end. Like it was always something that was like the lottery. Like you always bought ticket, always buy tickets because you could win. Like you could get the Dyad, and if you get the Dyad, you are in forever, basically. And there was always this kind of elusive thing that they tried maybe once and was like, we couldn't find it, couldn't really figure it out, couldn't really master it. And then, Sidious, I mean, it just kind of fell in his lap and he was like, all right. He's like, every plans aside, I can do it. I can do this. Like, I don't need, the sheer power from the Dyad is limitless, unlimited power, which is ultimately what
what they're after. Yeah, especially Palpatine, Sidious.
Yep.
So this Dyad, like you said, it took thousands and thousands of years to become be put in front of them, and ultimately help Sidious, come back to life. But ultimately, he ends up getting defeated. Now, what's crazy to think, and I wanted to bring this up too, is throughout the films, you know, we get this. We don't really know about the Sith really until the prequels kind of come out, right? There's no mention of the Sith really in the original trilogy. You know, I remember, if you remember correctly, you know, Vader was marketed as the Dark Lord of the Sith, but never really knew what that meant, you know, because Palpatine was never characterized as a Dark Lord of the Sith. He was just Emperor Palpatine.
Right.
So it wasn't until the prequels that we get that he is actually Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
The Sith Master, the Rule of Two, all these things, right? So as we get through the Star Wars films, you know, it goes back to this. I wanted to bring up kind of the prophecy of the Chosen One,
right,
and Anakin turning, you know, to the dark side. He eventually redeems himself and destroy. You know, in my research for this, I discovered, I was reading about how the prophecy of the One says that it doesn't say that he was going to, or it says that he is going to destroy the Sith, not end the dark side. So the Sith technically was destroyed.
Yeah.
In Episode 6, right? When he killed Palpatine, and he dies, but the dark side still lived on.
Right.
And ultimately, the Sith Eternal, which were on Exegol, were the ones that kind of brought Sidious back. Because the Sith Eternal, now this is why I wanted to get to.
Right.
The Sith Eternal is actually not necessarily the Sith. You know, the Sith.
Yeah, no.
Right? So
they're followers. They're like henchmen, basically. Of
cultists, right? Yeah.
Yeah, who generations and generations have always served the Sith. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the aspect that, you know, the Sith were trying to come back in the sequel trilogy. He was trying to come back. Ultimately, he didn't come back.
Yeah.
So technically the prophecy was fulfilled by Anakin, right? I mean, in essence, and I know there's a lot of talk about whether or not he was the chosen one still or whatnot, but also, you know, an aspect to think about though, if you believe he was truly the chosen one, I mean, the chosen one was a Sith also, right?
Yeah. Well, he became a Sith.
Sith.
Like, what wasn't it something like he was supposed to bring balance to the Force? Correct. I mean, in a sense, he brought balance because he destroyed all but like a couple Jedi, and there was a couple, you know, and like maybe the power kind of went like how powerful they were, and this Jedi that were like, I mean, it's just it's one of those things like religion. It's all about prophecies. They can be read and decoded different ways. So maybe Qui-Gon, who knows, man? Maybe he
had it right.
Wanted to read, you know, he saw what he wanted to see.
Absolutely. I think Qui-Gon had a different view, and maybe it was the correct one. You know, I think there was something with the Jedi, and we're not really talking about the Jedi on this, but you know, there was something with the Jedi losing their way a little bit and getting arrogant.
Sure.
Whereas the Sith, you know, that
involved with politics and that kind of
exactly.
Danger. Even Yoda, like when they were talking about, like we need to take control of the Senate until he loses power, until we get a new one. And then Yoda's like, oh man, like this is a dangerous path we're going down, and it's
exactly.
You know, but he still let it happen. I mean, he could have very easily said no, this is not what we're going to do, but you know, I guess he had faith, but yeah, so it's like, Sith Eternals and obviously the Inquisitors. And one thing that I really wanted to establish at the end of this episode was definitely to discuss like what makes a Sith.
Yes.
Like why aren't, like, the Inquisitors aren't Sith, you know, it's like the Eternals aren't. Vader technically wasn't a Sith until he went through his tests.
Yes.
And so, I mean, which lasted.
We'll get there, because one more thing I wanted to bring up, because I think this sets up what we're going to get into with the Inquisitors, is what everybody obviously knows what happened was over the course of thousands and thousands of years, the infighting the Sith were doing, the fighting with the Jedi, and ultimately which led to the great Jedi Sith War,
right,
and ultimately the survival of Darth Bane. So 1,000 years before Episode 1, Darth Bane survives the Great Jedi Sith War, goes into hiding and establishes, which we will do an episode about this eventually, the rule of two.
A
right?
very important part, yeah.
Yes, the master and the apprentice. Now, I think what ultimately, maybe he didn't think ahead about this, but ultimately what became of the rule of two was, again, still the infighting. Like the master who trains the apprentice, but then ultimately kills the apprentice if he finds a better apprentice, or the apprentice kills the master if he finds a better apprentice. It's like...
Not only that, but they would say, like, the key to finding a good apprentice is finding someone that's not as powerful as you.
That's right.
Which defeats so you are grooming, you are literally, through Darwinism, weakening your own power through finding someone not as powerful as you.
Right.
And technically they're supposed to kill you at some point. So if they do that, then you did a terrible job in one or the other. And then you're not you're not supposed to, it's like they're supposed to fight and claw for every piece of information, every piece of knowledge, which is one of the ways that Sith become a Sith. But yeah, so that's so you're not, first of all, you're finding someone weaker in you and you're not telling them everything. That just sounds like the worst idea. So yeah, there's definitely got to be more to it than that.
Yeah. And so for 1,000 years, the Sith hid in the shadows.
It worked
until somebody decided to step forward, which was Palpatine eventually. Which is crazy to think how much they hid. I do believe that there will be stories that come out eventually that tells us the times when the Sith did emerge a little bit in those 1,000 years. I just don't see how they could have just stayed hidden, because at some point somebody's got to figure out that we have to do this through other means, which is the Palpatine way, which is through politics. I'm going to basically make the galaxy turn it over to me instead of me taking the galaxy over. Right? Incredible philosophy, which we talked about in our Palpatine episode. But so now let's fast forward to the time of the Galactic Civil War. So Order 66 was ultimately Palpatine's way of destroying the Jedi Order, right? And taking over the Republic. So within that, once that is executed and Darth Vader is anointed his apprentice, he has to figure out a way to hunt down the Jedi that actually did survive Order 66. Vader could do it, but he can't be everywhere at once. So they as in Palpatine and Vader, establish what's called the Inquisitor's program, or a group of Inquisitors.
I don't think the Emperor was a huge fan of it, anyways, because he didn't really want a bunch of Force users, running around. But yeah, it was Vader's. I mean, it was kind of Vader's baby, I think.
Yep, they were governed by Vader, and it's awesome because within the last couple of years, we've been getting more. Now, we've always knew, like I said before, the Inquisitors were known in the Legends stories. Like, they've been around for a long time.
Okay, yeah.
It's been a while it's just until recently that they've actually been canonized more. You remember, it's funny because you remember the card game we used to play, it has Inquisitors all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Seventh Sister and all that stuff, yeah.
Well, those are canon ones, but it even had just Inquisitors as just regular players. It had different Inquisitors. Yeah. It did have the Grand Inquisitor. It did have Fifth Brother and stuff like that, but it had those regular, what do you call it? Little henchmen guys. I don't know.
Regular. I think there were some that I don't even
that were called, the Galactic Inquisitors. And so what's crazy to think though, is that these Inquisitors, like I said, the first, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like the first Inquisitor we got in a live action or animated story was Star Wars Rebels, which established the Grand Inquisitor. And what's awesome is if you play the game Jedi Fallen Order, which takes place about 5 years after.
Very cool game, yeah.
Yeah, 5 years after Episode 3, Cal Kestis comes across a couple Inquisitors and actually goes to the training headquarters of the Inquisitors, which we actually see in this trailer of Obi-Wan's.
Yeah.
So we're getting more and more of the Inquisitors, and we're going to get more and more here. I feel like in Obi-Wan. So that's the thing is the Inquisitors, which is crazy to think, they are fallen Jedi basically, or Jedi that have been tortured and reprogrammed in a sense.
Yeah.
So in that sense, let's get into that main topic you're talking about, which is what makes a Sith. Now, so why aren't Inquisitors technically Sith?
Yeah, I mean that goes back to like, I mean, who knows what it was before the Rule of Two? I really don't know, but I from what I can tell, is to become a Sith, obviously you have to be a dark side Force user.
Yep.
You have to be a powerful dark side Force user. You have to believe in the code, and you have to, at some point, many points, a lot of times, you have to overcome different tests put forth by your master. You have to pass these tests. Before all that, you have to get a lightsaber, and you're not just handed one. You have to go out and get one, and which is find a Jedi, kill them, take their lightsaber, make their crystal bleed, and that's it. And then obviously, and then you have the trials, many trials, some of which include killing a loved one, someone close to you, a former master, a dad, there are it's definitely not easy. And once you've done that and completed that, then you, I don't know of any ceremony or anything, but after you do that, you kill a loved one and you've gone through and killed a bunch of Jedi, you're at some point you are just recognized as a Sith in the eyes of your master.
Yes.
And then the difference between that and like a Dark Lord, I think those are interchangeable. I don't know if there's any set. Is there any set rank besides? I mean, there should only be two. Master and apprentice. But then you graduate, you're not technically an apprentice anymore, but you're just two Sith Lords.
You're a Sith Lord, at that point, yeah. I think the main difference is that, for example, I think of somebody like Asajj Ventress, right? Asajj, who was trained by Dooku, which ultimately could have probably maybe ended up being his apprentice, and then if he kills, Sidious, then he's the master. But the difference is because I remember there being a lot of controversy when she showed up in the Clone Wars. And like, wait a minute, what happened to the Rule of Two? I thought there was only supposed to be two of them. Well, she was never taught the Sith, all the Sith philosophies and all the Sith, cultures and all that, everything that you would know.
They haven't on purpose. They didn't teach him too much.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. So she was taught in the dark side of the ways of the dark side of the Force, but not all the Sith knowledge. And that's what's happening with these Inquisitors also, right? I mean, they're not being trained. They're being trained to fight and use the dark side.
That's right. Knowledge is another thing. Knowledge. They're constantly
dark knowledge
and dark knowledge. Yes. And I think Sith holocron is also needed too.
Yes.
I think to find a Sith holocron is another another feat that you have to do.
Yeah, there's a prequel comic, and I say prequel comic because it comes out before it came. It was set before episode 1. It's called Darth Maul, and it came out in this new canon. It's actually what's that?
He was different. He was like taken as a kid, like that. He's like an anomaly. He's totally, he's different.
But what I was going to say, in that book, you can see he gets sent on one of his trials.
Yes,
to go kill a Jedi.
That's right.
And so again, like you were saying, to become a Sith, there's just the Master just makes you go through different trials. I mean, again, very similar to Jedi, but they're much darker trials.
Oh yeah, you have to murder, and kill.
Basically, yeah.
Lure, like Maul was good at luring, and then like because you can't leave any witnesses, obviously, because then they find out the Sith are around. So yeah, that's Maul, man. Yeah, I think one of his big things was, I think, he had to turn his back on Talzin. I think is like one of his big, like he had to betray her. Mm-hmm. I think was one of his big tests. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's always a big test. I mean, whether or not Kylo Ren was actually, he didn't have the knowledge. He did the trials and all that stuff, but he did not. He had the relics. I mean, that's a big thing too. But he didn't have all the knowledge, and I mean, until he met up with Palpatine. I mean, at some point, I think his last thing was to kill Rey or bring Rey. I think that was his final test. And if he'd have passed that, if he had done that, then he would have been. I mean, sounds like he'd have been a Sith.
Yeah, I think they were on that path. The question was also always, was Snoke a Sith? Ultimately we find out Snoke was just a puppet of Palpatine's in a sense. So technically he kind of was a Sith. He just never said it out loud or whatever, or kind of established it as that. But he was definitely, he was definitely the kind of puppet of Palpatine. Yeah, Palpatine was using Vader's grandson as a way to have that rule 2 established. But like you said though, because Kylo, you remember Kylo, his whole thing was he wanted to destroy both the Jedi and the Sith and start kind of a new thing. Yeah,
which but it's still power and victory, and because Anakin had the same thoughts too. Like he was like, we don't need, I can overthrow him. We can do our own thing. It's like you're still. It's tough. It's a very thin line. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's actually a very blurry line.
Yeah, maybe.
At what point do you? Was there a Jedi that was perfect? Was there one single Jedi that never did anything out of code? Who knows?
Yoda. Obi-Wan.
Yoda. Maybe Yoda and Obi-Wan. Maybe could be like the only two. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. One thing I keep thinking about though, as I think about this rule of 2 and this, this establishment of the Sith, it's like, ultimately, in a sense, it did work. What Sidious was planning, what Darth Bane had established, it ultimately did work. They did destroy the Jedi. Mm-hmm. They did take over the galaxy. But part of me wonders, I wonder if it would have been better to reestablish and grow the Sith Order again, secretly.
Right.
I don't... to be similar to, I guess, what happened in Knights of the Old Republic, where, and again, I don't know if it's canon yet or if it will be canon, but the Sith Order does, at least that storyline, I believe, they take over the galaxy. They invade Coruscant and take over the galaxy.
Yeah, they did
by force.
Time. I think Palpatine, maybe the reason he was so successful is because he did go the political route and thought, well, the world is changing, like the role of the Jedi and stuff, all that's old stuff. They're barely in power, and it's really the people, you know. I think that, and also Palpatine wanted to be the most powerful, didn't want any challenge, wanted to have control of everything. And I think the more Force users challenged that idea, I feel like he would be like, no, like he wanted complete dominion over that realm of the Force using of all that stuff. So I don't know. I mean, he had his Sith Eternals. I mean, I don't know about that. That's interesting because I mean, I'm trying to think, what would I have done? Like, would I have started a new Sith temple? You know, would I've gone back? Would I've, you know, done that? I mean, I don't know. I can follow Emperor's thought process of doing that, keeping it small.
Yeah, keeping it. Yeah, definitely.
Ultimately, I mean, they'd have just fizzled out. Like, I think that was like the last standing move. I think if Emperor hadn't, if Palpatine hadn't done that, then I mean, I don't know.
No, yeah. Ultimately, secretly, that's what I wish. And I think I've said this maybe once or twice on Inside the Force is ultimately I secretly wish that's what would have happened in the sequel trilogy, is that Palpatine, as a contingency plan, had a bunch of these Sith warriors that he's been training all this time on somewhere else. And then Jet and Luke would have had established his new Jedi Order.
Oh, yeah.
And then we would have had Jedi and Sith.
That'd be cool.
Oh, think about that.
A ton of lightsabers. Like,
yes.
Like that.
One led by Palpatine, one led by Luke against Palpatine, just like.
Yeah. Like when that shit, like in that game, those game breakaways, those game videos are really cool. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
It crashes in, the bay door's shut, and it's just all these red lightsabers. Oh man, it is cool.
That's what I want. I want to see. I wanted to see that.
We'll see something like that here coming up.
Yeah, maybe with you mean with what, like Knights of the Old Republic and stuff?
Yeah.
I do think you're right. I think somehow they'll go back and do a whole.
We need lightsabers, man.
Tons of lightsabers.
Yeah,
man. I mean, that would be. I think they missed it not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I wanted to get your opinion on as we talk about these Inquisitors a little bit, because as I was researching it a little bit, and I kept thinking, okay, so when we get to episode 4 and we see the Civil War going on, where are the Inquisitors? What do you think happens to them?
Well, let's see. Do we know what happens to them?
I don't know what happens to them because
they were killed. A lot of them were killed.
A lot of them were killed.
I think, was it ultimately, I think their style, I think ultimately there could be a couple things. I'm trying to remember, who was it? Ezra and them? Did they kill the Grand Inquisitor? So
they killed the Grand Inquisitor, and they killed on
yeah.
Is that Moraband? Is that Moraband? That's not Moraband. That's what planet was? Huh?
The Sith Temple behind me?
Yeah.
Malachor, right?
But Malachor, yes, Malachor. So a couple of them died on Malachor.
Yeah, I think like 2 or 3 of them all killed. And so training them, and at that point in Palpatine's plan, there was a lot of resources, I think, being put towards, and time being put towards training these, because not all of them were fallen Jedi. I think some of them were found and as sensitive Force users and trained, but to train them and find them, and that part of the plan, I think, just kind of faded away. I think Palpatine wanted to focus more and put more focus on like the Galactic Empire and the Navy and the officers, like all that stuff, just to start to establish the Tarkin, like his rule with an iron fist, like dominion, oppression.
Yep.
I think the Jedis just weren't a threat as much as anymore, and they just turned their gaze on, and then Vader became more. He became less searching for the Jedi, and and training Inquisitors, and more as a general, like as a strategic leader, and military leader. I think, and he obviously got a little older, and just I think it suited him a little better. But then obviously, there were things that happened between then, but yeah, I think that seems about right.
Yeah, ultimately, what I think happened, and what we don't know right now is how many Inquisitors were there. I don't feel like there were that many.
I don't think so.
Like, I don't even think there were more than a handful. Like, probably.
I think there were like 8 or something like that.
Yeah, especially if they were given those names like Seventh Sister and Fifth Brother. I would say maybe there might have been 24 of them. Maybe, 10 to 12 females, 10 to 12 brothers, 10 to 12 sisters. So if you think some of them get killed, you're Cal Kestis in the game, you end up killing one of them.
Yeah.
You have, like you said, rebels, Grand Inquisitor, those other 3 get killed. Yeah. So ultimately what I think happens is that when we get to roughly around episode 4, I mean, at that point, the Jedi are pretty much thought to be extinct, right? So, Kanan had just been killed in Rebels. Ezra's still out there, but he's gone. He gets hyperspaced out of there. Again, Obi-Wan and Yoda are really the only Jedis left. And then Luke obviously is going to be one.
Well, now we know that
and Ahsoka is kind of around still. Yeah, but she's not technically a Jedi, but yes, they would probably hunt her down and kill her.
Yeah.
But either way, I think the Empire, especially Palpatine, believes that the Jedi are no more. So, in essence, why do you need Inquisitors at that point? Because their whole role was to hunt down Jedi.
Yeah, I think they just
So they probably just got disbanded, or they got told to go, or maybe Vader just wiped them out. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, they just fizzled out.
Yeah.
Totally. And the might of the Empire began, and they built a Death Star, and they had all their Navy fleet like that. Because then because the biggest threat then were like rebels.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally.
Rebellion, and that, so they needed more ships and stuff like that to fight it off. Like, I mean, there's only one Vader. There's only one guy that can jump out of a ship and kill another ship and then get back in his ship, and then or board a dang another huge ship and
wipe out all the rebels. Yeah.
Like, you can only do so much.
Yeah, but it's funny. I could see that conversation though. Once Luke comes back, it's like Palpatine's like, "So, where are your Inquisitors at?" And Vader's like, "I killed them all. You told me to kill them all. I don't have any of them."
What do you mean you killed them all? Oh, we spent so much money training them. What do you? What you said?
Yeah. All right, so
like his hands on his head.
Yeah.
He gets up and he's like bent over. Oh man, I made a huge mistake. Yeah. That's a Robot Chicken skit.
That is a Robot Chicken skit. Yeah, that's totally a Robot Chicken skit. So okay, so you think we've established that a little bit of what it means to be a Sith in a sense?
I think so. I think we've talked a lot about that. I think ultimately it comes down to, I don't think there is a 1 through 5 exact way. It is all different according to the master, but there's a baseline similarity, loved one, trials, tests, whatever you want to call it, knowledge, lightsaber bleeding the crystal, dark side force user. I think all of those kind of the baseline, the details, devil's in the details. So I don't know.
Yeah, I dig that. I think that's right. Again, there's so much more we'll go into eventually on this show with the Sith. But that's kind of the overview of it, and of course talking about the Inquisitors as I think what I saw was 4 of them in that trailer. 2 you're familiar with, the Grand Inquisitor and the 5th brother, and then 2 new ones, I feel like. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there's going to be familiar faces in there.
So excited.
That's can't freaking wait. Guys. I know.
Visitors. And then we're going to get, we only got one little, like in the song.
Yeah.
But we're going to get, I think, multiple fights, at least 2 fights throughout the season with Vader and Obi-Wan. You think?
Yes, I think they're
maybe short, maybe not fight, maybe short little skirmishes, a couple of them meet up, and then at the end a biggie.
Yes,
think so.
Yes, and I think he's going to be fighting Inquisitors too.
Oh, he'll be doing that. Yeah, he'll be popping them like fleas.
I saw a killer. I saw a cool tweet by somebody, I can't remember what it was, but they showed that picture that came out in Entertainment Weekly yesterday with the Inquisitor, the female Inquisitor, standing eye to eye with Owen.
Oh yeah.
And the tweet was, "It's incredible to see truly how close an Inquisitor actually got to Luke."
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome. And just to think like that Obi-Wan survives, like, he does, like he's crazy. And I mean,
and unfortunately, the Grand Inquisitor does too, because he ends up in Rebels. So
yeah, but he's definitely going to be definitely a big bad and overbearing force when he enters. You're like, oh boy, here we go. Like,
right.
Some bad's going to happen. But think of that moment. Think of that moment when that Inquisitor faces Obi-Wan, either dies or somehow makes it out, gets back to Vader and says, "There's a Jedi that I faced, and he had this," and then Vader knows, and he has that moment where Vader's like, "Where?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, where is he? Where did you see this? And he, just pops in a ship and goes immediately to "I will deal with it myself." You know, and pops in and just, I want to see that moment, like almost like the moment from the comics when he found out that Boba Fett, he's like, "Did you bring me anything of value?" And Boba Fett just said just a name, Skywalker. And
that's right.
And that glass just pops with I want to see a moment like that in live action. That would be phenomenal.
One thing also that just popped in my head that I think will, again, deep dive when we get to this character, and I don't think we'll see it in this show, but think about this. So your favorite character, Darth Maul, right? Mm-hmm. He's alive at this time too.
Yeah, he's around.
So he has established Crimson Dawn at this point.
Yes.
Because it's only been a year. This is 10 years after, and Solo takes place 10 years before. So that means this is a year after Solo.
Yeah.
So that means Dryden Voss is dead. Right. Kira has become the lieutenant under Maul, basically. So here's the thing. What we don't know, so we saw Maul in Solo, and then we don't see him again until Rebels, where he's stranded on that planet behind you.
Yeah.
Right? So how did he, it's still a question, how did he get to that point where he's leading Crimson Dawn? Well, what if he hears that Obi-Wan is alive?
Right.
Or somehow finds out? He has to, because that's his whole point of going to Malachor. He's trying to find the Sith holocron in order to find the location of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
I don't know if they'll see it in the show, but somehow he's got to find out that Obi-Wan is still alive.
Yeah.
And how cool it would be to see something like that in this, where, I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be neat.
In passing, like, imagine like Maul's in a ship, and he's just flying, and he's just in this big Crimson Dawn ship going this way, and Obi-Wan's coming this way, and he just drops everything and looks over, and like at the same time Obi-Wan they almost sense each other.
Oh,
like,
man.
that would be, he's alive, and like, and that could start his like downfall though. Like, I think soon after he knows he's alive, he he starts to deteriorate, and then we see him all crazy loopy on Malachor. So
I know. Yep.
He definitely was really far gone at that point. His brain was eaten up with rage.
Yes, totally. So, all right, everybody, that'll do it for this episode of Dark Knowledge. Thanks for joining us. Fantastic discussion. We're going to deep dive even more in the coming weeks. We appreciate everybody joining in and commenting and letting us know how you feel about the show. In fact, I was actually going to bring up to see what comments we had on our last one.
Some real hype on the show, man.
Love doing this. It's something that I feel like we should have started a while ago, but
yeah.
Okay, we did have some. Oh, we did have some. Just so you know, I want you to hear say, Jojo Jar Jar, who's a great avid listener or watcher of ours. He brought up the fact that Jar Jar Binks needs to be a topic sometime.
Yes.
So we gotta do that. Jojo Jar Jar also says that's right. Much of Palpatine's backstory is not canon anymore, making it almost as mysterious as that of Yoda. Might be better that way. Jar Jar is also a big mystery that is constantly being revealed.
We've always wanted. Well, I'll say this to that. We have talked about doing a what if series on this show, and that would be a very cool what if. Jar Jar mastermind. Mastermind Sith behind everything. Like that would be cool.
Yeah. A couple comments. Thrawn Addict said, "Great show, great graphics at the start. Appreciate it." That's my boy David Silvernail who did that. The Sith holocron needed to be a Sith holocron. Why? I mean, it had to be. Thrawn Addict also goes on to say, "I hope that they do Plagueis. I hope that they make Plagueis' book canon. Yeah. It's a great book, really good and dark origin story for Palpatine. Palpatine killing his family and finding Maul was great as well as the book leads into the Phantom Menace." And then
great.
Yeah, then he goes on to say later, he says, if they don't make it canon, would love a Disney Plus show about young Palpatine. That would be awesome.
That's always been that would be really cool, a young Palpatine. They've even had a few fan suggestions for casting. I don't know the guy's name, but the guy who played Doctor Who.
Yes.
Younger guy. Yeah. I don't know his name, but
I know what you're talking about though. Yeah.
I'm talking about, like, he seemed like a really cool one. But there are so many. I mean, you could find a ton of people.
Well, and then Jojo Jar Jar responded to that saying, well, maybe the Acolyte show will be a prequel to such a show, or perhaps even have him in later seasons. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. This whole Acolyte thing is going to be interesting. And this is the great time that we do this, because we can bring that onto the show mainly. But I had thought about this, that the Acolyte, because it does take place apparently in the High Republic era, which is still a couple hundred years. So I don't think it's Palpatine, but it could be the establishing seeds of Plagueis.
Right.
Because Plagueis is immune, and munes, I don't know if they have long lifespans, but they could. Sure. You could see the early apprenticeship of Plagueis, which I think would be freaking cool.
Plagueis,
yes.
Plagueis.
All right, so
yeah, because we talked about Palpatine was alive. What was it, over 100 years, right?
Eventually, because of the cloning. Yeah, that's right. Yep. All right, so awesome stuff. Check out InsideTheForce.com. Of course, we're on YouTube and all of the podcast feeds. I will be talking heavily about the Obi-Wan trailer on Inside the Force coming out. Actually, it's already out, because I'm actually probably going to put this episode out after that episode. So you had already heard my review of the whatever. Yeah, thanks everybody. So YouTube and all your podcast feeds got the latest on there, so go check that out, and more from Dark Knowledge to come. Thanks, Cory, for joining me as always.
Love to be here. Love talking about me some Sith stuff.
Yeah.
Sith talk.
Yeah, I only dive in the dark side when I'm talking to him. I won't get it. I won't get in. Yeah,
Bad influence.
yeah. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Rest of your week. Take care. We'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.